That's an unusual tie. I like that.
Thank you.
I'm always looking for ties that are striking, but don't get bizarre with color.
Yes, well, yesterday I was wearing a jacket that strobed, so I thought I would save them today.
Okay.
And you have speed.
All right. A courtroom drama. A black man is accused of murdering the two men who raped his daughter. And you are in a role that I suppose wouldn't seem to be especially sympathetic. You're the prosecutor of a man we are supposed to sort of sympathize with. Villains? And yet, do you see yourself as a villain in this one, or are you upholding a kind of law and order ideal here?
Well, aside from the fact that I'm wearing Bob Dole's old suits, there is a certain conservative aspect to this character. My attraction to it was, first of all, Joel Schumacher, and then secondly, I thought, well, even though he's a little shady, and there's some sort of backdoor cigar-smoking deals going on, there seems to be just as much shadiness on the defense side. I believe it's Sandra Bullock who's stealing files, not me. So I felt that in actuality, he tries the case on its own merits. And he might win the argument, but he loses the case.
Yeah.
And the thing that was important to me was to try to bring a level of humor to a role that could have been rather grandstanding or rather sort of very narrow, and also to bring a degree of respect between the prosecution and the defense table. Even though they're on opposite sides of the trial, I was very delighted when I saw the movie that there's a kind of playfulness between Matthew's character and mine. It's not judicial respect is something that's gone a little missing from some of our trials in the last couple of years.
Well, you have had plenty of work in, I guess, pictures I'd call ensemble pictures,
Yes.
and on stage too. Chekhov, O'Neill, Ibsen, and now on film, where you're part of a very stellar cast. Does that fit in well for you to work with a group as opposed to maybe being a headliner like in Swimming with Sharks?
I work exceedingly well in an ensemble. It's a certain sensibility that I just come from. I guess it's out of the theater. And it's also the way in which I think about how work is done. I mean, even a film like Swimming with Sharks was a collaboration. I might have been the character that drove the film in terms of its energy and its pace, but I couldn't have done any of that without an extraordinary writer in George Wang and a great co-star in Frank Whaley. So everything that I try to do, I'm just not interested in sort of little star turns. I think that the most interesting stuff is the stuff that's complex, and often in a story that has multiple characters that are all being developed. I think an audience has to work in a certain way toward that. I mean, sure, I'll probably do a no-brainer one of these days, but in the meantime, I just keep trying to find stuff that challenges me and actors and directors to work with that keep me going, keep me having a reason to get up in the morning.
Well, ironically, in spite of calling these ensemble pictures, my goodness, Swimming with Sharks and Seven and Usual Suspects, no actor that I can think of in the last year and a half, 2 years, has been more widely discussed than you because of these pictures. Are you coming into Time to Kill on sort of a roll or a high, or do you see it that way?
I actually don't see it that way. I mean, someone asked me yesterday, oh, this is your first post-Oscar film, and do you feel the pressure of... I really don't. A part of that, I guess, is because I've just been working so hard. I've been in post-production on a film that I've directed. And so there's a certain just work ethic at hand. I'm not going to spend too much time worrying about trying to top myself or sort of reveling in the past. I've got my eyes set on the future and the things that I want to accomplish now and the new tasks that I have for myself and new goals that I have for myself. And one of those is to get my butt back up on stage, get back in touch with that after a good couple of years of run in some really fine films.
Wherever you go, finally, and forgive me for asking you this, I'm sure everybody does, but will the name Kaiser Soze follow you around wherever, and is that all right?
That's perfectly all right. I mean, there's just things that people remember, there's things that pop out at them. And I think that I'm luckier in that I've had 15 years of work where I do have a body of work behind me. And I think that that will be one that will stand out in a long series of other performances and ones to come, and hopefully my directing efforts. I don't think that I'm in danger of becoming one thing, or only being remembered for one thing. I've been around a little bit too long, and I know when people talk to me and stop me on the street, they talk about a lot of things. You know, so I really sense that even people who just discovered me this year, I get a lot of letters now from people saying, you know, I never heard of you before, and now I've gone and rented The Ref, and I've gone and rented this movie, and friends of mine are getting me old Wise Guy tapes, and so people are actually taking the time to go back and sort of discover earlier work of mine that they weren't aware of.
And I think you're absolutely right. It's only fair to point out you are not the person who steals the files in Time to Kill.
Right.
Excellent point. I'm John Tibbetts talking to Kevin Spacey. We're in New York City talking about A Time to Kill for KCTV5.